everybody. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here with my super dope co-host, Miss Tori Rodriguez, a.k.a. T-Rod. What's up?
How are you, Jeremy?
Amazing. How you feeling?
I'm pretty excited. I have an old coworker here with me today.
My man.
I'm super excited. We have Victor Zamora here with us.
Yes.
And I'm excited for everyone to hear what he has to say about education. He's worked in some pretty interesting groups of students that I'm really excited. But before we get into talking with Victor, Jeremy, why don't you tell our listeners who we are here at Next Level Teaching Podcast?
Look, we're some regular, goofy, but hardworking and fun-loving people, all about education, right? And with our Next Level Teaching Podcast, we want you to learn something new. We want you to laugh, and we want you to live your best life. So you're going to learn quite a bit from Mr. Victor Zamora here. You're going to learn, you're going to laugh, and we want you to live your best life in and outside the classroom. Yeah. So we're going to deal with some serious, some hard-working, some hard, challenging things, right? We're going to really deal with some issues. We're going to expose some stuff today, but we know that you can take something from this and go to the next level. Yeah.
And you guys don't forget to make sure that you either rate us or leave some reviews, some comments on whatever platform that you're listening to us on, because we know that, we're here as a podcast, but we're also available on YouTube. So make sure that you give us that 5-star rating if you really love what you hear. And definitely tell us what you'd love to hear from us as well. So I actually want to let you guys in on who Victor Zamora is. I had the honor of working with Victor my first 2 years, so bless him, he saw me. Yeah, that right there. He knows. Yep.
Yeah, flashback.
I was young, don't judge. So Victor has taught social studies, middle school for most of his career in teaching, and then high school a little bit there at the end. And he was in education for 10.5 years. He has taught at the International Transition Center, which I think is something that not a lot of people know about, hear about. And so I'm excited to enlighten some teachers on what some of our students are coming into us looking like. And he currently is working at Emory approving grants right now.
Reviewing, approving. That's somebody else's job. Not
there yet. Yet.
And he's my neighbor. Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of.
Well, thank you for being with us, man.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
I wish I had a cool last name like Jeremy Zamora. You know what I'm saying? I'll stick with Anderson for now. How you been, man?
I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So we like to get right into it, right? We've got about 85 questions for you. Okay, maybe not that many. But tell us, when did you first decide, or when did you first know that you wanted to go into education?
So I didn't share this earlier before we started recording. So when I was in college, there was a course called the Respect Program.
What were you studying? I'm just curious.
Sociology, anthropology.
Okay, gotcha.
So, it's like here's your certificate and see you later. Have fun trying to find something to do that with the degree. But it was a program called the Respect Program. Every Wednesday, one of my sociology professors would meet us at the Everglades Correctional Facility in Florida, state correctional facility.
Wow.
And we would sit in a classroom with it was half students, half inmates. And these are life sentence inmates. I mean, you've got the worst of the worst in the same classroom with you. Wow. But they're the ones that I guess were better. They had better behavior, so they got to participate in these programs. And what I learned from them was they didn't have anybody to guide them when they were younger. They didn't have anybody there to speak to them and to point them in the direction they needed to go to when they were younger, especially male figures. So, it just stuck in my mind. I'm like, somebody's got to try to, I feel like I need to just kind of jump in at the point in their lives where they need to have somebody kind of guide them, whether it's me and a couple of other people. And that's what got me into teaching. I was in Big Brothers Big Sisters. I grew up in Miami. Okay. And I moved here, found a job at the Boys and Girls Club, and then left the Boys and Girls Club and then started teaching at Gwinnett County Public Schools.
How long were you at the Boys and Girls Club for?
I was there for about 2 years. I was the education director there.
Okay. Got it.
And that was a fun environment. It was so much fun, and you could talk to. There was a lot more flexibility with life skills and teaching kids what I think are important things that they need to know in life. Except the schedule didn't match my wife's schedule because I was
1 to 9
p.m.
Oof.
And she's a teacher as well, so her hours were during the daytime. So we never saw each other awake.
That's a deficit in the loving you was getting too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, something got to change.
It was like, hey, who's this lady sleeping in my bed?
Right.
So,
wow.
I figured let me just jump into education because we have similar hours and I'll still be able to do not as much because it's not as flexible in the public school system as far as the way you communicate with the children. But, we were able to have the same hours, same vacations.
Gotcha. Nice.
And but that's what my wife and I have been doing for a very long time. Is just serving others, loving.
So I want to know what about the Boys and Girls Club. You talked about this like flexibility, and the relationships that you were able to have, and from someone that worked with you for a few years, that was something that I noticed about you that you made those connections, and especially the school that we were at a very predominantly Hispanic school, as is. And so I want to touch on that a little bit. I want to hear what you loved about the Boys and Girls Club, and what you weren't able to take into public school, and then things that you were able to take into public school from that. Well,
number one at the Boys and Girls Club was I wanted to prove to the Norcross students that a short Hispanic guy could play basketball. First of all,
straight up,
because you have activities, but when they first get there, they got to do their homework. If they need tutoring, we tutor and stuff. But what I loved about it is, if I needed to address something with an individual, it wasn't like I had to stop teaching a class and leave everybody in the classroom, which I did often as a teacher. I would take them outside and just have a conversation with them.
Right.
And I could say that my conversations are pretty transparent and straightforward sometimes, because I feel like there are certain kids, and you know how to communicate to kids once you get a feel for them and you know who they are. And I guess it's something that you can't be taught at school, is how to communicate with these kids. And you have to have a background similar to theirs to be able to communicate, I think, effectively.
Yes.
Right. But the number one thing you do have to do is you just have to love them, no matter how bad other people think they are or not.
That's
and I hated people hearing teachers or adults say, "This kid's bad, this kid's." I'm like, they're not bad kids. They're just
they just need love.
They have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, I think from the very onset, I caught what you said. I'm sure Tori caught it too. You said that, hey, me and my wife, we love. You looked up and said, serving these kids.
I do.
And I'm like, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
You didn't say we love education. You didn't say we love teaching. You didn't say you love, being the leader of the classroom. You didn't say you love teaching the curriculum or the lesson plan. You said we love serving these kids. And I think that if we can have that mindset, like, I am here to serve you. So to all the principals and administrators listening, you're not just in leadership, you're in serviceship, right?
Right.
To all of the teachers and the coordinators and the social workers, like, we are here to serve, right? The President of the United States is here to serve us. Our governors and our senators, we are here to serve us. Those who are in leadership and authority, we are here to serve. And so if you could just talk about that, because that for me was very refreshing to hear. Like, me and my wife love to serve these kids. You don't hear that often. So can you expound a bit more on that, and maybe where your passion for service, not just education, but where your passion for service, where that comes from?
It's all biblical.
Okay. Talk about
Bottom line.
Yeah, I love it.
It's
I receive it.
I've been talking a lot with my wife about this lately. Is everybody's emotional, everybody's angry, everybody's mad, everybody's got the compassion, but they don't. It's like I said, and I tell her every day. I was like, there's only one answer for me. It's in the Bible. Now, my relationship with God is my relationship with God, right? And I think people would be appalled at the conversations I have with God because it's
honest.
It's honest, and
he ain't afraid of it though. He ain't afraid of it.
He wants all the smoke.
And it's funny because he always proves me wrong.
right.
I'm like, watch this, God, and he's like, no,
you watch this.
No. So that's where the foundation is. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and then my mom and her family became Christian after her brother passed. It was a freak accident. She's from Costa Rica, and so everybody became Christian, switched from a very strict religion into just more Christianity, more
Protestant.
yeah, and it's just it's a battle every day, and it's a journey that I enjoy and that I study. But I know that at the end of the day, I'm here to love and to serve other people. And when I say serve, not like, not to make sure that people actually respect me while I serve them.
Absolutely. And you serve them by holding them accountable.
Always.
You serve them by redirecting them.
Yeah.
You have to check them.
Yeah.
Like I had a group of teachers after my third, I don't know if you're familiar with my story, but I went to 3 different schools for the 9th grade. I got kicked out of one school.
Yeah.
I went to another, completely failed.
Right.
So my third try of the 9th grade, I came across a group of teachers who had a similar mindset. They said, we're not here to teach the lesson plan of the curriculum. We're here to serve Jeremy. And they captured my heart, brother.
Yeah.
And I haven't been the same since. And then I began to go on a journey. I became a Christian. I began to really adopt it, for real.
Right.
Got active in my local church, and my life kind of took a shift from there. But when you talk about us being willing to serve, that was key for me. But they still checked me. They still redirected me.
Right.
They still threatened me with the love.
Well,
right?
and that's the thing, isn't that in faith, isn't that part of it as well,
Absolutely.
though? That, we are still checked by God in that. And so I think that what you're saying there is so true for teachers that are out in the classroom serving, that do believe. I think that it's so important for us to remember that as we're stepping into the classroom, that we are here to serve, and we are to serve like he did. And there is obedience within that has to happen.
And here's something interesting, right? And this might sound weird for some of our listeners, or some of them might be like, Jeremy, you're spot on. But there are people that's doing this kingdom work that don't even realize it.
Yes.
I've met with some educators who are amazing, and they're atheists. They're like, I don't even believe in God, but they will go to bat.
Right.
They will show up and get clothes and bring these kids to their home and bring them meals and go above and beyond for them. They just haven't had that connection that we were privileged to have.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's still something special within them that says,
Oh, he's still working.
Yeah.
He's still working in there.
Us say, you know what? I see something here, and I'm here to serve you as well, and it's refreshing. Yeah.
It's a great feeling, and
how long's your wife been teaching for?
Longer than me. She's 2000, so she taught in Miami.
Okay.
Probably the worst middle school in the county, as far as discipline goes. But she loved those kids. Since day one, since before she even started really getting into the Bible. So she had that before and now she's got that love for them, and there's a foundation for it. Yeah. I can't speak enough about how much of a super teacher this lady is.
That's amazing.
We're gonna have her on. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
I told her. I told her. Get ready. You're gonna get a phone call.
Okay. Ryan,
she's next on the list.
I guarantee you, man. She's getting texts every day from students right now, and they're nervous and they're freaking out. And she's like, "Don't worry, just
that's good."
Yeah.
I don't know if are you familiar with a school called Care Elementary?
Care Elementary.
They're in the heart of Miami. Get this: when we were traveling on the Grace Tour, we actually would go to group homes and homeless shelters and schools and prisons and churches. And we were speaking at a homeless shelter actually in Miami-Dade County, right? And where the big food pantry is. And there's a school there that services these schools here that's really adjacent to the homeless shelter. It's weird. So all the parents at this homeless shelter, 90% of the kids at this elementary school come from their shelter. Now I had no clue until a friend of mine, Principal Chris Simmons, who does amazing work there, he brought me in to do professional development. Well, when I walk into the school, I look across the street, I said, I spoke at this homeless shelter years ago.
Wow.
And to know that I spoke to their parents years ago,
wow.
Some of them were pregnant, and now their kids are in, pre-K, kindergarten, first, second. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And so, one thing I've realized is whether you're in a big city or you're in a small town, that poverty is the same.
Yeah.
The struggle is the same. The depression is the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I saw a lot of that.
Yeah. But because of what we do every day, it gives them a fighting chance. Can you talk to that? Can you talk to maybe that kid? Which one you want to do? The one that carved his heart, or the one that broke his heart, drove him crazy?
Let's do the one that drove you crazy first.
Yeah. Tell us about that one kid that make you second guess.
Let's watch names.
I can't say they drove me crazy.
Okay.
Because they drove other people crazy, and she'll tell you. I mean, anytime a student drove somebody crazy, they would send them to me, to my classroom.
Yep, I sure would.
She'll remain nameless, but she did it a couple times. But I don't blame her. You know, she first, second year teacher, but
we literally shared a door, y'all.
I did, but it's necessary.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So there was one kid at summer hour. Oops, I said it. That he could do no wrong in mom's eyes.
Oh wow, okay.
That's frustrating. So it's not really the kid that drove me crazy, although he couldn't sit down, he couldn't work, he couldn't stay in the same desk. I said, look, here's your work. If you want to, wherever you want to do your work, just get it done. I don't care if you're standing, I don't care if you're in a corner. Just make sure you finish it. Make sure you do it right. End of story. Right. Everybody, all the other teachers would drive him crazy because he wouldn't sit down in his desk and focus on his work. I didn't think I thought the right approach was just let him finish the work.
Right. Because every student is different in the way that they
effort.
Yeah. And in the way that they're able to get things done.
Right.
I mean, that is part of that differentiation right there of however it works best for you to do this.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, I'm not going to sit here and make you.
As long as you get it done.
Yeah. Sit in your seat.
And that word differentiation, I hate that word. Because they expected you to put it on paper. I differentiated on the fly. It was improvisation constantly.
Absolutely.
And I guess I got better at it all the time because you always have to improvise in schools where you have a population where the reading levels are very low.
Right.
The home experience isn't ideal for them. And you just... That's the approach you have to take, I think. You always have to have that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely.
That you don't know his story. You don't know that girl's story. I mean, you can't, I guess you can't judge.
Yeah.
And I never judge the students.
Absolutely.
I judge administration left and right, but decisions. But I think if you come from a place of love and understanding and just know that they may not have the same experience you have or my own children have at their house, that you just have to take that approach.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right?
Okay.
Because I believe for you have a special vantage point. Because you were in Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like you were at the Boys and Girls Club. Like you saw the pain, you saw the struggle.
Right.
So for you, your heart has already been pricked.
Right.
What advice would you give to a teacher that's never experienced that? Maybe the teacher that just grew up and things was pretty sweet and was like, okay, I'm going to go into the classroom and I want to teach and I love to see that light bulb click. But then they come across a kid and they're like,
I don't know how to deal with this.
Right.
Well, but let's be honest. That was very much me. My first couple of years when we taught together was I grew up in a decently middle class home and I didn't have that many issues growing up. And so I was kind of cushiony, honestly. And then I walked into this difficult school, to be very honest, it was. And I was one of those teachers, I felt like, that didn't always understand where they were coming from.
Right, right. And I'm sorry. I'm going to give it back to you. But you had a support.
Yes.
And I think that's what's beautiful.
I did have
You was like, okay, I need you here.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So you would go to Mr. Manning,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Or Mrs. Zamora,
Yep.
like, I need some help. I need some backup here.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be. So, yeah, what advice would you give to someone that's in that weird space?
Oh, just show them love. And you could also read books that, not instructional books, not the ones that your administrators make you read.
Yes.
And have a book club for. There are books. I forgot.
Unless they're our next level teaching and next level parent books.
Those I recommend. I highly recommend.
Well, but
I can tell they're good books. I haven't read them, but I can tell.
What from someone that has read it, like that is what you're getting at. Like I know where you're going right now, and Jeremy talks about his story.
Right. So you need testimonies.
Yes.
Like there's a book called Teacher Man. It was written by an Irish guy. He wrote another book that's very popular. I forgot his name. But he was an Irish. He's from Ireland. He ended up teaching in New York City public schools. And there's some of the experiences he shares, would have driven anybody out of the teaching field.
Wow.
I mean, taking these kids out of their neighborhood on a field trip on the subway, his experiences. And then there's another book, and I forgot who wrote it. It's called Honky. right? It's about a white Jewish male whose parents were hippies in the late 70s, decided to move into the projects in New York City. So he's got his experiences based off of what he saw.
Wow. So you're saying you can glean. So the educators who are maybe not fresh, maybe I've talked to some that's cried on my shoulders.
I'm sure.
15, 20 years in the game.
Yes.
So they're having a hard time. So you're saying there are some books where others can share their journeys, right? It's because we're talking about experiences and connections.
Right.
But then also, would you agree that having those conversations with those kids, seeing what's going on in your world, like why are you so angry?
Yeah.
Like, and then you might find out, oh, your dad's locked up.
Right.
Oh, you really don't know how to read in this beginning of the school year, and I told you to read this lesson, and now you feel like you calling me out.
Right.
Right. Or maybe you didn't eat this morning.
Right.
I don't know about you, Tori, but I get a little hangry sometimes.
And it shows up in their behavior.
Yes.
I mean, it always shows up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they can't express it one way, they'll express it another.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
That's any child.
Absolutely.
Any adult too.
If
they can't. So and it's I guess that's a sixth sense you have as a teacher after teaching a while.
Yeah.
As soon as a kid walks in your classroom, just by looking at the body language, you know something happened at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's good.
I mean, it's unteachable. I mean, and
some things you got to just get in there and experience.
you have to experience.
Yeah. So in other words, don't give up, right?
No, don't give up.
Yeah, yeah. As long as you feel like you are being able to make about change, and it's not setting your family back.
Right.
Because I made a commitment to my family years ago. Like, I would not let entrepreneurship, the work I'm doing with schools, my travels, like my engagements go to Ebony. She's like the booking agent, assistant manager, and then certain things go to my wife. And if they don't approve it, I don't jump on that plane.
Got it.
Because it's important for me not to compromise my family dynamic.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to that, right? Because you're not in education now.
Right.
So can you talk about what brought about that shift in that transition?
So I felt like I was male teacher, father figure for most of these kids because, their father's not around. And I was having conversations daily with multiple students, just trying to tell them what their father or a good father would tell them in conversation. And some of the conversations were hard. I mean, I'll have my tone of voice is different for like the older male students because I had 19-year-olds. Trying to graduate. I mean,
wow.
Some of the conversations I had to have with them were hard for them to hear.
Yeah.
But that was daily and multiple times. I get home, and I was mentally exhausted. I mean, I didn't want to. I just wanted to sit down, take my shoes off, and just put my feet up because I was done. But I've got 2 girls at home.
Wow. Wow.
And they call me daddy. So when they want to do something and they don't want to hear I'm too tired.
Yeah.
That's not fair to them.
No, not fair to them. So I got to a point where I think my girls are at a critical age, especially nowadays, where they need me and mom. And mom's better at balancing her job and being mom because of I don't know. She's way better than me at it. She can multitask. She's a super mom. She's a super teacher,
She's
super
a woman.
mom.
Yeah, that's what they do.
I'm not wired the same way.
Right.
I've got to be dad to them. I can't be dad to everybody else.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to just kind of let them fall by the wayside, the students, I've got to make sure my girls get the best out of me that they can.
Absolutely. And then you could look up in a few years and say, okay, I could transition back.
Right.
Like that season could easily come.
Right.
Well, and that's one thing that I was going to say is I am at a stage in my life where I have a lot of extra time. I'm single. I don't have any kids.
Right.
I have a dog. So I have all of this time. And my dad, for the longest time, would be like, Tori, I need you to live a personal life. And I was like, but Dad, I have this time right now. And so I think that that's something you had that time, that capacity at the moment to be able to because I watched you give so much to those kids. I mean, the conversations that you've talked about having with your kids and working with, especially the ESOL population, the transition center, the International Transition Center, where you are breathing life into kids that don't have people breathing into them otherwise. And so you do have to fill yourself back up because you cannot pour from an empty vessel.
Right.
It's impossible.
Right.
And so I think that that's something that as educators we have to remember.
Yeah.
And it's okay to take a moment to breathe and to fill yourself back up. And so the past 2 years, have really worked to make sure that I have taken, I've set boundaries for myself, truly.
Yeah,
that's the word that I've used. I've set boundaries. I am going to leave at 5 o'clock every day except for once a week, so that I know that I'm being filled up myself.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because you got teachers like 5 o'clock. At 3:15, I'm in the car.
But I still got kids at 3:15.
That last bus rolls out. That last bus rolls out.
I've been to some schools where they had me do professional development. When 3 o'clock comes, they let the kids out. I'm supposed to do from 3:30 to 4:30 with them.
Yes.
And they're in there mad like, I'm supposed to be in TJ Maxx right now. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you're even like, I gotta be out by at least then, because you could easily say the 6 or 7.
Oh, I have. Oh,
Right.
they used to come over the intercom and be like, whoever's car is still in the parking lot, we're about to turn on the alarm, so we need you to leave within the next 5 minutes.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
Those first 3 years.
Right.
I mean, me and Stevenson, we used to do it all the time.
Right. But then when the season comes,
Yes.
and your knight in China armor comes, you got a bunch of little, it's coming.
Lord, where is he?
Yeah, it's coming. I'll speak that over you, right? You got a bunch of little babies running around.
Yeah.
You're not going to be doing 6 o'clock
And that's,
at night.
And that's the thing. And so I applaud you for
Absolutely.
realizing that you couldn't pour into your students from an empty vessel and pour into your family.
Yeah.
And to realize that and to know, okay, I've given what I have, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you poured so much.
Yeah.
You truly did.
Thank you. Thank you.
And here's the thing, right? That educators don't see, which I like to always highlight, is we never know what's happening like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if that curtain can be unveiled, there are so many young boys I'm sure that you talk to and some would say minister to that did not get in gangs because of your work, or they got off of drugs or stopped.
We had one.
Oh, let's talk about it. Yeah, I want to hear about
Which
it.
one?
We had one. It was the year that you and I were together, and
Guy with the pencils in his ears? The mechanical pencils?
probably, yeah. Because I remember at one point, like the gang name being written in eraser on the desk, and being like, okay,
Right,
so like
right.
now I have to go to administration about this.
Right. Some things we'll never know, like the full impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the full impact. Like how many kids on the verge of dropping out, how many on the verge of like suicidal, depressed,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, on the verge of doing something really, really risky or toxic.
Yeah.
But because of those hard conversations you had to have where they were mad at you, but on the inside they were bubbling over.
Yeah.
Because there's a male figure that actually cares.
Yes.
I
These
had a
now-
mentee that was in the gang.
Yeah, talk about that.
Smartest kid I've ever taught.
Yep.
Smartest.
A lot of times they are.
I mean,
Yep.
you probably, maybe.
Don't say the name.
I'm not going to say his name.
We'll talk
I'm
about it
not.
after, but I think
I know,
we're talking
I know
about
his real name and his street name.
Okay.
So I won't say either one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smartest kid. Math genius.
Wow.
Math
Yep.
genius.
Yep.
Same one, maybe?
I think so.
I was his mentee.
Right.
He joined the gang. One day he shows up with his teeth busted out. He was walking down.
Not chipped, busted out.
Yeah. He was walking down Jimmy Carter. And for his, like Jimmy Carter's like MLK for Hispanics, right? Jimmy Carter Boulevard. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's how I feel like it is.
Right.
So he's walking one way. His cousin and his gang are walking the opposite way, and they start throwing gang gestures at each other. And his cousin grabs an aluminum baseball bat and just goes to town on his mouth. And
Wow, his cousin.
his own family member.
Yeah.
Wow.
He shows up next year with an ankle monitor because he was a passenger in a drive-by.
Wow.
Smartest kid I have ever taught. I
Yeah.
guarantee
Wow.
you. And, you know, I would call him. I talked to him. His apartment burned down. I had some extra furniture to give, so I gave it to him and his mom. Hopefully he's. I haven't been. I've looked for him on Facebook to try to reconnect, but I can't find him. Hopefully he's all right.
But you did what you did.
Yeah.
I did
Go
what?
ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact the fact that you know this much about him, right?
Right.
The fact that you, because I'm going to be flat out honest, there are plenty of teachers out there that wouldn't know that about their student.
No, they wouldn't share that either to the teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a sense of comfort that he has with you, trust, right? And that comes from connection with them. And you want to talk about service.
Yeah.
You want to talk, I mean, you literally gave
that's what it looks
furniture, you know, and that to me just shows.
That's next level teaching.
That's what I was about to say. That's where I was going, sir. I'm like, that's next level. Like, that is it right there.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I want to ask about the one student that captured your heart.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so this one kid, it was him, his mother, his 4-year-old. He was in the 8th grade.
Okay.
I think. It was so long ago. But his mother had a liver disease. He decides to go to the store to buy some food or whatever. The grocery, comes back home, mom had passed away.
Oh, wow.
Okay. He comes back to school 2 weeks later and makes straight A's.
Wow.
He had to be, and we would tell him, if you ever need to step outside, if you just need to just kind of let it out, don't even ask, just walk outside. And he did a couple of times. But he made straight A's. So
wow.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't even explain. Because for me, if it was me, I don't know if I'd be able to keep that composure and keep it together and just keep moving forward. Because, and that's I'll never forget that, because to me that's amazing. That's super.
I had a student this year that went through something very similar.
Yeah.
And her father passed away. She came back, made straight A's. My grandmother passed away this year around MLK. And when I came back from the funeral, I was out pretty much all of that week. And when I came back from the funeral, she had brought me a letter and some like chocolates and gave me the biggest hug and was like, I understand what you're going through, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
Right.
And my heart... it broke me. Like this 12-year-old. And to think about it like that, like he was 13.
Right.
If he was in the 8th grade, right? 13, 14 years old.
That's rough.
And to just have that resilience.
And you go from boy to manhood within a day.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Yep. And these things are happening so often, which is why it's important that we show up and we're the best that we can be. So again, man, I commend you for saying, hey, you know what? I've got to take some time away. Let me transition. Let me pivot. I need to make sure I'm here for my girls, especially during these pivotal times.
Right.
And I think there are a lot of our listeners that's probably having to have some hard conversations with themselves, saying, you know what, maybe I can do better management of time.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe some of them aren't loving as hard or as heavy.
Right.
Maybe they don't carry as much as the burden. Right. That's you, because I imagine, they were naturally drawn to you, especially the males. But maybe we have some people watching or listening that's thinking like, you know what? I don't have that much gravitational pull, but I am really, really busy with the work when I get home. And so now I'm sure that they've seen from your example, hey, I've got to be intentional to carve out some time for my family.
Right.
To make sure that I'm present in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. But you can still do that by taking care of other kids, but you got to be strategic. I tell people all the time, people make time for what they want to make time for, what's important to them. For you, it was more of the emotional capacity.
Right.
Because you could have just been there and present, when you got home.
Yeah.
But the emotional that they needed from you. So that was wise to say, I'm going to put this on pause here. But at the same time, there are some that's not the case, but they need to be there and be present so that they can be able to connect with these kids in a real powerful way, but then still be able to carve out some time. So I'm telling some folks, I'm like, the video games, playing ball on the weekend with your friends, like some of these things, you might have to cut that out so you can be here for the kids and be here for your students as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of our things that we talk about is we want to learn here.
Yeah.
And so I really want to take a moment to educate some of our listeners into our ESOL population, but more importantly about the International Transition Center. It's something that a lot of counties tend to have, especially counties that have a lot of students that are coming from around the world. So you have a lot of international students that are speaking their home language, which is not English. And it's very different than even what your typical ESOL teacher would see within their classroom.
Absolutely.
So very different than what I would see as an ESOL teacher. And so I would like for you to touch on that and share some of your experiences and what that looks like to open some of the eyes of some of our teachers out there.
There are kids who come here from other countries that the highest education, if any, is a third grade education, especially from Central America.
Yep.
So they would, they'd show up to my class. I'd have to either pair them up with somebody at a higher level, or and it was a small classroom. There was no more than 12 students, and I was in a trailer. And it's a challenge because you really have to. I mean, there's lots of differentiation going on. And with 12 students, it's a lot because every single student in that classroom is at a different level.
Wow.
And it was very challenging. Because, like I said earlier, they don't know how to read. Some of them don't know how to write. So it's going to show up somewhere else.
Right.
They're going to compensate with behavior.
Right.
And there's also acclimation to the country's cultures.
Right.
An example is a lot of these kids, they're used to, 18-year-olds are used to dating 13-year-olds in Central America. And I've had to have that conversation a couple of times.
That ain't going to fly here, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. I had those conversations. I said, in Gwinnett County, you're going to go to jail.
Yeah.
In El Salvador, it's not as, they're a little more lenient, but here, this is not even in this country.
Yeah.
Those were conversations I had to have. So it was a lot of, it was juggling.
Yeah.
It was juggling.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting, but they were great kids. They found me on Facebook somehow.
Don't they always?
And you have to understand that when they walk into your classroom, they've never been inside a classroom in the United States.
Yeah.
So they have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Right.
They have to learn how to school.
They never had air conditioning.
Yeah.
Period. So they see this box on the wall that I'm just shifting back and forth, and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "That's why it's cold in here."
Right.
That's what controls it. So it's amazing because then they also get textbooks and they get computers and they're doing things they've never done before.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess the hope is for them to be able to find success in this country because a lot of these kids are sent over by their mothers to escape gang violence.
Yeah.
Because if you don't join their gang in Central America, they'll probably just kill you.
Yep.
So moms, all these mothers, and no mother wants to send their kids away.
Right.
Yeah.
They send their kids away to here.
Yep.
It takes at least 2 weeks to get here. They take trains, whatever it is to get here, they get here.
If you could change some things within that specific system itself, what things would you change? Would you add to it?
The system as far as
The center that you were with.
if I could change a couple of things, give them a diploma because they're not documented. So I don't know if it's the state of Georgia or Gwinnett County, but you can't get a diploma if you're not a documented citizen.
So they could be putting in all that work. Wow.
Yeah. So, but they can go to vocational school, get certified. But that was hard because it's in Kentucky, the Job Corps. So.
So it's not even in the state. So it's not even here.
No, it's Kentucky. So a lot of these kids that actually have family members here, their parents don't want them to go far away from them. Because Hispanic culture, you don't leave the house until you're married.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not.
And then you take care of, like, your parents come back and live with you.
Right.
Yeah, Dad said that one recently. That was funny.
Yeah.
I was like, you doing what?
Yeah.
You moving back already?
Right.
Yeah. So, it broke my heart a bit, but
Right.
like I said earlier, though, you just have to show them love and serve, and then hopefully
That's it.
they can pick something up
Yeah.
from your intent and use that themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and So you said you hope that they can pick something up.
Right.
I think we expect so often, especially, you've heard me already advocate so much for our ESOL population, but we expect them to pick up everything, and they're not going to.
Right.
And especially within the International Center, they're not going to get everything.
No.
But the goal is to have them learn how to be productive members of society,
right,
and pick up some of what we're teaching them. And I used this phrase a little while ago, you have to teach them how to school.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something I learned. I went on a mission trip in Guatemala right before I started teaching, and that was something that I learned, is that they stopped going to school in the 4th grade in Guatemala City unless you go to a private school. And it broke my heart. And so once I started getting some of those students from Central America, I realized, okay, I'm trying to teach them pre-algebra, but they don't even know fractions.
Right.
So, okay, and that's where the leniency has to come in. That's where the grace has to come in that. And you talked about pairing students up with higher level students. And that was something that I learned from you a lot, was taking those students and realizing that they can help each other and they can be supports to each other. And that's okay. You're not taking away from another student, because if a student can teach a lower level student, then they have then mastered that content as well.
And you're killing multiple birds with that stone, because they're also socializing with each other. You're pairing somebody up, and I usually did it with 2 people who didn't know each other at all. They didn't even know they just sat in the same classroom. They didn't know each other's names. And I'd say, introduce yourselves. You're going to be working together.
Keeps them busy, keeps them occupied.
And then just they had to learn how to build relationships.
And it gives him that feeling of fulfillment as well. Like, hey, man, I helped him kind of get this concept, this theory. Yeah, that goes a long way.
Yes.
That's good, man. Man, you've been doing great work, man. I hope that a day. How old are your daughters, if you don't mind us asking?
I've got 11.
Okay, think about it.
Hopefully.
Right.
She's going to watch this this week.
That's like, Dad.
I'm 10. And the other one's 8.
Okay.
So one's going into middle school, and the other one's going to 3rd grade.
Okay.
So
that middle school transition was interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, luckily, her dad and her mom were middle school teachers.
So you know that life.
You'll get them right.
Yeah.
You'll get them right.
Yeah.
I can see a day coming because of your passion. I can see a day coming when you feel like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to go back. I have the bandwidth. I have enough in me now to be able to take care of them, because those are, interesting ages there. Me and our family, we went to a celebration yesterday for a dear friend of ours, and some of friends that's really close to my wife was carrying Jackson around, and he can walk. He's almost 2, right? But my daughter saw them being carried, and she's like, "Daddy, pick me up." And she's 7. But she saw that, and she was like, "Well, I want to be loved." And I'm like, my baby girl needs that much more of me. Now, I didn't pick her up because we're in the whole banquet hall, right? But she was like, she needed that from me at that moment. She wanted to sit on my lap because she saw how much attention he was getting. So I love the fact that you say, you know what, I've got to transition. My daughters need to be here for me. I'm emotionally, mentally zapped when I get home. Right? I'm not going to be any good for these kids and be able to be good for my family. So I got to make that transition. And a lot of educators aren't able to make the decision. So that was bold and brave of you to do that. So, man, we commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I can see a day where you'll be back.
Thank you.
I can see a day you'll be back, man.
Thank you.
You ready for lightning round?
Sure.
I hope you're ready.
So
Tori's got that heat.
lightning round is strictly fun. He's going to give me 60 seconds on the clock. And I'm going to ask you just some funny questions. Don't get any of them wrong. Your face, Victor. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
Okay. Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Apple or PC?
Apple or...
Like the device.
Like Apple.
Oh, I thought it was like food. PC, because that's all I use.
I was going to say after that, for sure.
Right.
Let's see. What one has to go? Christmas or your birthday?
Christmas.
Okay. One has to go ice cream or cake?
Ice cream.
One has to go ketchup or mayo?
Ketchup.
One has to go Twitter or Instagram?
All social media. I don't know.
Last one has to go Manning or Rodriguez?
I'm not going to answer that. None of them.
Right.
No.
We're all a keeper.
Yeah, that's a trick question.
Good stuff,
Yeah.
man. Man, we appreciate you rocking with us, man.
You're welcome. Thank
Love
you.
to have your wife come on the podcast with us sometime.
Yeah.
Thanks for all
know.
you do.
Yes.
And when you get some of those governmental contracts, holler at your boy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much
This was
for being
good.
on.
You're welcome.
This
And
was
thank you
good.
for leaning in and sharing your story. And thank you for dealing with me my first 2 years.
No,
And,
you're fine.
And teaching me, though. Like, I really did learn so much from you. And I know there are some times where you're like, what? I've seen that reaction from you. And I'm like, no, I did that. Like, you truly were one that, I mean, we need those male figures in our schools. And to have you and Ryan around me so much, my first 2 years was so important.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yep. She wouldn't
You're
be where
welcome.
she is today without y'all.
Yeah.
For real.
Right.
For real.
She's
That's
got her,
awesome.
she earned her stripes already, though.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
It's true.
I love it. So look, I need you all to do us a favor. If you're listening right now, you're enjoying this, leave us a review. But not just any review. 5 stars. Show us some love. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. And we'll continue to give you all this content every single week.
Yep. All right, guys, that's all we got for you. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Adios.
Bye, guys.